Toastmasters stage anew.
December 29th, 1989. God decided to send a cute little baby, but a heavy baby on earth. Because the heaven was out of food. And a baby boy was born in a city called Nagpur. He was named Anup. It's spelled as A-N-N-O-O-P. Most Indian names come from an ancient language called Sanskrit, and every word has a meaning. Anup means the king, the only king. Now most of you must be wondering why God chose Nagpur. Nagpur is one of the beautiful cities in India. It has a warm and sunny weather which provides good agricultural conditions for oranges and mangoes, which, by the way, mango is Anup's favorite fruit. And again, the mangoes we get here are not real mangoes. Nagpur is also known as the Green City because of the reserve plantation. When British were ruling India, they wanted to commute across the country easily, so they started to build railway networks throughout the country. And they started their measuring point from Nagpur, and it is known as 0 mile. Anup is a very shy kid. He likes to paint and sketch and always likes to cook food. The whole thing is about food. Back in India, he has a small family, a mother and an elder brother. He's very close to his mom, and it was very difficult to move from the home country to United States for his masters. Wait, did I forget to tell you that the best part of growing up in India is food? There are several kinds of food. There is veg biryani, pani puri, rasgulla, gulab jamun, and my favorite is samosa. But like every happy story has a climax. His story also came to a climax. His greed for technology overcame the love for food, and he betrayed his love. He was accepted in Colorado State University for the master's program in computer engineering. Now what? He had to pack his bags, meet all the relatives, visit all, spend time with his family, and eat as much as he can. It was a motley situation for him. Believe it or not, but you never care about someone until they go away from you, and that was his situation. Most schools that accommodate international students, they have a homestay program. So the basic idea of the homestay program is to have international students to stay with local residents, to understand the culture, to understand the food, surroundings, and mostly the people. Anup was also assigned a family named Malanders. It was totally new for him, and he did not know how the things were going to be there, what food they eat, how do they talk. This was the first time he was moving out of the country. So he dropped an email to them to start the communication, and to his surprise, he got to know that they were non-vegetarian. And Anup, being grown up in India, he was vegetarian. So he asked them to bring in some groceries when he was going to be there. He reached Fort Collins on August 12 at 2 a.m. in the morning in 2014. He saw Layla at the door waving at him. She welcomed him warmly and showed him the house. She is a real nice person. John was asleep at that moment. He had to get to work early in the morning. Let me introduce John and Layla Malander. John is born and brought up in Colorado, where he has hiked almost every mountain. Layla Malander, she's from Israel, and she's an English teacher at CSU. How did these two guys meet? That's another different story. We'll cover in future speeches. Feeling guilty to wake someone up that late in the night, he exchanged the greetings and he went to the bed. The next morning he woke up and he found out that there was nobody at home, although he was told that everybody will leave for work in the morning. It was surprising, at the same time it was relaxing, because he needed some time to relax and to take the environment to relax with the environment. But now what? He got hungry again. He went to the kitchen and to find out the sandwiches that Layla had made. But being finicky about food, he decides to cook. He found the eggplant in the fridge and rice, and he made his first lunch at the place eggplant and rice. He was having his lunch, and Layla gets home. He was really embarrassed that he cooked a lunch in someone's place in their absence. But to his total surprise, Layla was overjoyed, and she said, like, this kid already feels home. 3 years down the line, Anup and Layla and John are going out together. They have been hiking together, they are going to the different restaurants, and they have been introduced to Indian food. One incident he specifically wants to mention here, that 3 years down the line, on one of their lunch dates, Layla Malander goes to the restaurant manager and tells him, "Your food is not spicy. you got to cook authentic Indian food." Yes, it is very difficult to leave your family back in India and move to some other place, but it is also a good lesson in life that you can go to different places and connect to different people. He has Malanders by his side, so even though he misses his family, he has someone to take care of him. They always make sure that this guy is all right and taking his food on time. I hope with this speech I convey the message that if you are new to a place, make out new delicacies and share it with people, because food always connects people. Thank you.
Great job, Anu. All right, I'll give you guys a minute. Please give some constructive feedback. So now can we bring Chris to do an evaluation for you.
That was a hell of an icebreaker in there. I'm just going to knock that whole thing over, so I'm going to move on. So this is how I want to break up your evaluation. I'm going to look at content, organization, and delivery. And so starting with content, the whole point of this speech is to introduce yourself to a new group. You did a fantastic job of that, and you proceeded through in a pretty logical way. You organized your speech time-wise, and from a content standpoint, you covered who, where, when, maybe a little bit of why. You introduced yourself, the who you made really clear, and you even told us what your name meant, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic, and it was funny. Where you were born, where you lived, when you changed from living in India to living in Fort Collins. And you also introduced a little bit of humor here and there. You were born when heaven ran out of food. I thought that was fantastic.
I missed that. I remember I missed that.
And so I think you did a wonderful job of giving us a very personal introduction to you, and that's the whole point of this speech. Organization-wise, again, I thought it was really effective. It was time organized, where you start off where you were born, where you spent your childhood, and then move to how you came here via Fort Collins. And the title of your speech was Food Connects People. From an organization standpoint, it could have been Food Connects Your Speech. This is how I was envisioning your speech in my head. Food was like the hub on the wheel, and everything else was like the spokes coming off of it. And I loved that. You had a constant theme throughout. You started with the things that your memories of your food from your childhood. You went to how you introduced food to your Indian food to your new family in Fort Collins, your American family. And it was kind of the undercurrent of your speech was food and the types of things that you got from food and how it's connected you to people. You know, one thing that I think you could do a little bit differently, even though since food was so clearly the theme and it's so clearly connected to the speech, you could have been more specific about what foods you were making, what foods you were enjoying. I mean, you did give us some specific examples. You did talk about being vegetarian, and you talked about convincing your American family how the American Indian food wasn't spicy enough and wasn't true Indian food. And you gave some specificity, but you could have told us what kind of food you cooked in your host family's home when they came home, or how you introduced them to certain types of food. Maybe how they introduced you to some American food, assuming you actually like any food that we have here. I suspect that you do as a foodie. So that's something that you probably could have done a little bit differently. But then again, that's kind of nitpicky. As far as your delivery, you did a fantastic job. You didn't, for starters, you didn't hide behind the lectern at all. There's a little bit of debate about whether this is a lectern or a podium. I maintain that it's a lectern, but I might just be getting picky. But regardless, you didn't hide behind it. I love the fact that you had a sheet of paper. As far as I could tell, it was typewritten on both sides. And you didn't read anything off that paper. You paused occasionally, looked at it to kind of collect yourself, figure out where you were, and then you put the paper aside and you looked at us. The eye contact was great. I didn't see your eyes move around the room very much. That might have been effective. But frankly, I don't think it mattered a heck of a lot. Your eyes were up, they weren't looking down, you were engaged, you were smiling. That's important. That's something that a lot of times we forget to do, especially when we're nervous. I know I have. When I'm just trying to get something out, sometimes I forget that my face actually has an expression on it, whether I want it to or not. And you did a great job of controlling that. You were smiling, you were engaged. When you told a joke and everybody laughed, you chuckled too. I think that's important. It makes it seem like you're actually having a conversation with the audience rather than just speaking to the audience. I think your other goals included pronouncing words clearly. What else did you? Oh, presenting without fear. I think you did a great job of that. The pronouncing things clearly, look, that's tough. This is your second language. I'm not going to lie, there were some words I didn't catch. And some of that might be my failing. So that's probably something that, assuming that you continue to give speeches in English, probably something you can still work on, because you're probably dealing with a bunch of idiots like me who can't figure out what somebody's saying all the time. But I don't think that's really your failing. I can tell that you did a really good job of that. I'm actually very impressed with your English. And again, I can't imagine how difficult it is to come up and give a speech in your second language. And I just think you did an absolutely wonderful job of that. In my view, you really accomplished your goals with this speech. And so I applaud you for that. I really can't think of any other criticisms or anything else that I would improve upon. I think you did a wonderful job.